In this video, I will be going over how to use the simple input-output module I've written for you guys in Google Script. Input and output is a crucial part of programming as it allows you to get input from the user and display the output of the process to them. Now, of course, with Google Script, this is needlessly tedious, so I've just written up a quick script that will do all this for you. So in this video, I will be showing how to do that and give you general advice for when you're using code written by somebody else. So first of all, I'm in the main document for my introduction to Google Script, and I'm going to scroll down to here to this Getting User Input section and start by going to this README file. Now, the fact that it says README and is written in all caps is usually a sign that it's usually a very important file. Most code that people write will typically have a README file with instructions on, for example, how to use it, and so that's what this is doing. So to start with, I'm going to give this a quick glance over so it's really short. So first it says how to use input-output.js. So I've actually saved it as a txt file so that way you can view it properly. And we have this scary stuff here. So you don't need to understand what any of this is doing. You just have to read these instructions in the README to know how to do it. Okay, so it says step 1. If you haven't already, create a new Google Doc or Google Sheet. So I'm here in my Google Drive and I'm going to hit New. And I just like Google Sheets more, so I'm going to create it here. Alright, now I'm just going to name this really quick. And hit enter. Okay, that's step 1 done. Step 2, go to the script editor by going to Tools and then Script Editor. Okay, so Tools, Script Editor next to the 2 angle brackets. So this is an untitled project. I'm just going to name it temporary. I tend to name a lot of things temp. Even my drive. It usually takes Google Script a second to save, but at least I hope it's gonna save. Well, while it's doing, okay, it's done. Number 3, once you are in the script editor, click on File, New, Script File. So I'm gonna go File, New, Script File, and I'm just going to name it Input, Output, not output. So now this is where you are going to put my module, the code that I have written. So going back to the README, copy and paste the contents of input-output.txt in there. So I'm just going to, let's see, can I do Control A here? No, we don't want to do that. That grabs a little bit too much. So I'm just going to hold down to highlight all this, get to the bottom. So Control C, and once again, you don't have to understand what any of this code does. That's not the point of it. Okay, and highlight this, and Control V. And now all my scary code is here. It's actually not that bad, but still, it's a little bit more than you're used to if you've just started this course. So, and that's all we need to do. Now, similarly, in all caps here is don't change that file. So this is something you'll usually want to do is if you're using someone else's code in such as this module here, which is meant to help you program, you typically don't want to edit this one because if you break something here, you may not know how to fix it. And let's say, for example, if I were to make a new version, a more updated version of this input-output module, then it's easier just to be able to copy and paste my new stuff into here and not worry about having made changes in it. So it's usually a good idea to confine your own code to your files and my code to my files. Now, of course, I would like to use these functions in here, but let's say, for example, I don't understand half this stuff. I mean, what does throw mean? What does it mean to have an equals sign in here inside a parameter? Ah, it's scary. So what you usually, if you're given a README, you might be given what's known as documentation. Documentation is supposed to tell you in English what each function does. So we can see here, this script gives you some new functions you can use. Output message displays a message pop-up, and it shows how to use it. Okay, I'm going to do that. I am going to copy and paste this. Output hello world, so that should do something. Notice how I didn't go trolling through this code here to try to figure out what it does. I mean, some of this is documented as well with how to use it, but in this example I've confined all the documentation to this file, so that way you can ignore the input-output. So I'm going to try running my function here. It's probably going to give me an error of some sort. Or is it? Oh no, it didn't. For once it actually worked. So the instructions here say what to do if... Oh, I think I know what it's going to be. So sometimes it will say, oh, you need to certify this program. You need to allow it to make changes, even though it's just, doing pop-ups like this. So the documentation said that using output would display a pop-up containing the message. And it did exactly what it said. That's very useful. Okay, so that part is done there. So now let's take a look at what other functions I have here. So ask message displays a pop-up asking the user for some input and returns their response as a string. Okay, so that would mean it works like this. Okay, so I'm going to let response equal ask enter something. Okay, so now this is getting user input. So let's do some output to show what they said. So I'm going to say output you entered, I think, there we go. And we can see somewhere in the documentation that I've listed, you can use a comma to give this multiple different arguments, and it will print each of them. So, making sure I have a space here, let's make sure this works. So I'm going to run my function. Hello world. Enter something. Well, I mean, if that's what you want, okay. You entered something. Well, duh, of course I did. So that's two of the functions here. It's output and ask for getting user input as a string, keep in mind, and user output. Not user output, sorry, displaying output to the user. Alright, we got three more functions to go here. So ask num is the exact same as ask, except it returns their response that isn't a number. So it also says here it keeps asking them for a number if they enter something that isn't a number. A better word for asking in this case would honestly be pestering. So let's do it this way. So, okay, so let num equal ask, oops, sorry, ask num, what is your favorite number? Okay, so I'm going to output your favorite number plus 1 is, and I'm going to do num plus 1 here, because I think that'll work. Let's see then. So let's run my function again here. Probably should get rid of these. No, I won't. You entered, no I won't. Okay, so what is your favorite number? 9. What is your favorite number? See how it didn't accept that? So I'm gonna say go away. Okay, it's still gonna ask me for a number, so I'm just gonna be lazy and just say 415925. So okay, so it looks like it added correctly, and that is it for there. Okay, I'm just gonna close this one here since I don't need it. Okay, so ask int. So this one is going to ask for an integer. So following the same logic as the last one, it's going to whine until we give it a number that can be interpreted as an integer. So let int num equal ask int how many sheep do you have? I don't know what sort of person would ask this sort of question, but it just felt like the thing to write. So yeah, you can have more than 2 arguments. You can actually have infinitely many arguments to output for this, within reason, of course. Oh, that's right. None, I have no sheep. Okay, let's say 5.5. So it says I have 5 sheep. That's because it kind of chopped off the decimal point. It did what's called truncating it, or no, I think in this case it's flooring it, which is rounding it down to the nearest integer. Okay, so I have 5 sheep, but there's something else to keep in mind here, is I'm just going to show a brief example of what is known as user input validation. So let's say I have -3 sheep. That doesn't make any sense, does it? But it says I have -3 sheep. Maybe I owe someone a debt of 3 sheep. I don't know who takes uh, sheep as a debtor. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. So let's add what's known as input validation. So in general, if you ask the user not to do something, that's precisely what they will do. So even if we were to say enter a positive number, actually it would be better to say non-negative since they can have 0 sheep. So negative number. So we can do that. We can ask them to do that. Enter a non-negative number. How many sheep do you have? Well, that's not going to stop me from saying I have -9 sheep. So this is where user input validation comes in. So we're going to use the while loop for this. So out here, so let me say something here. So what I'm going to do is that, let's say, so outside of the loop, I'm going to say while int num, no, sorry, let int num equal -1, while int num is, oh man, I always get this the wrong way, while 0 is greater than int num. That's, let's see, okay. So first we're going to set the user input number, I really should have called that something else, to -1, and it's going to check, is this number here, okay, so is it invalid? Is it, oh yeah, so is 0 more than the number the user entered? So it's going to ask this. Note how it starts out. It's guaranteed to run this at least once because of this starting condition here. So it's going to keep pestering them, asking for how many sheep they have until they finally enter a non-negative value, and then it tells them how many sheep they have. So I don't know why I chose sheep for this example, but let's just see it in action. No. Okay, no, that didn't work, so I'm going to say -5 sheep. Okay, that didn't work. Let's see if 0 works. you have 0 sheep. So that does work. Let's make sure it works with a positive number of sheep as expected. 9999999. How's that for a random number? Okay. So that's an example of validating user input in general. You want to assume the user isn't going to give you what you want. So this is just a nice way to check how many sheep they have. So I'm going to comment this out, and I think I just have one more function. Here goes. This is, oh, I keep hitting the wrong keys. And then in the README it says we have ask bool, so asking them for yes or no. So this one's, of course, had a little bit of an issue with it. So let me show here. Let's, what do I want to call this? What sort of question do I want to ask? Do you, no, has sheep equals ask bool. Do you have any sheep? So I'm going to output. Okay, so let's do if has sheep output you have sheep, else output you must be sad, no sheep. Alright, now let's see if this thing, oops, I forgot to run it. And now let's see if this thing works here. Do you have any sheep? So you're not supposed to type anything here. It actually judges your response based on whether you click yes or no. So if you click, did it ask here? Yeah, so asking the user to choose yes or no, it returns their response as a Boolean. So if I were to click yes, that would return true. If we were to click no, that would return false. So I'm going to click no. You must be sad, no sheep, sad face. So I want sheep, so I'm going to run it like so. This time I'm going to say yes. You have sheep. Brilliant deduction, Google. So that is, I think, let me see here. So that's in general how you would use this input-output module. So this script that I wrote. So as you can see, it gets a little bit gnarly. As I said, you probably do not want to even look at this thing after you copy-pasted it. Maybe when you feel a little bit more confident, you can look at it, or if you've done programming before, it might be an interesting read. It's just my take on what you might need for doing basic input and output like this. So I hope you find these functions I've made useful, and I hope this tutorial is useful as well, and that is it for this video.